House Republicans meet this week to decide whether to remove Liz Cheney as conference chair, the number 3 post in GOP leadership. Cheney says her party is at a turning point over former President Trump's claims of a stolen election and his role in the Capitol Hill riot. And joining us now, the head of the House GOP's biggest caucus, Indiana Congressman Jim Banks. Congressman, welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Hey, Chris, good to be with you.
You are one of the Republicans leading the charge to remove Liz Cheney as chair of the Republican conference, and it looks like to replace her with Elise Stefanik, a congresswoman from upstate New York. I want to put up their voting records because it's pretty interesting. Take a look. Cheney has an 80% voting record from the conservative group Heritage Action. Stefanik's score is 48%. Cheney voted with Trump positions these last 4 years 93% of the time. Stefanik voted with Trump positions 78% of the time. If Cheney is being replaced, and she's clearly, it seems, more conservative than Stefanik, is it just because of the fact that she's not as loyal to Donald Trump?
Well, Chris, let's start with that. No, this completely misses the point about why we need a change in Republican leadership. Let me tell you, Republicans are almost completely unified in a single mission to oppose the radical, dangerous Biden agenda and win back the majority in the midterm election. And any other focus other than that is a distraction from stopping the Biden agenda from what it's already done in 3 months, sending this economy in a tailspin, the crisis at the border, making America less safe abroad from appeasing those like in Iran by flirting with reentering the Iran nuclear deal. That's our focus as a House Republican conference. And any leader who's not focused on that, on pushing back against the radical, dangerous Biden agenda, at this point needs to be replaced. But the point here is that we are almost entirely unified on that mission except for Liz Cheney.
I understand, Congressman. What is it about Liz Cheney that isn't focusing on this mission? She opposes Joe Biden's agenda very strongly.
Well, that has not been as seen as much as most of us in the Republican conference would like to see. As you mentioned, I'm the leader of the largest conservative caucus, the Republican Study Committee. Chris, it's uncomfortable at times, but one of my jobs is to hold my Republican leadership accountable for being focused on the Republican ideals that we stand for and the single mission that we have to win back the majority. And at this point, the reason, Chris, that you and I are talking about Liz Cheney on this important program on Sunday morning is the exact evidence that she's failed in her mission as the chief spokesperson of our party. We shouldn't be talking about Liz Cheney. We should be talking about pushing back against the radical Biden agenda, and this is all a distraction from our ability to be able to do that. That's why she will likely be replaced this week. We'll sort it out. I don't know who will replace her, but that will be a discussion the House conference will have this week that we're going to take up because at this point it's necessary to do so.
I've asked you 2 questions, Congressman. Why are you unwilling to discuss her criticism of President Trump?
I'm not. And as a rank and file member of the House Republican Conference, Liz Cheney or anyone else in our conference can stay focused on other issues unrelated to us winning back the majority in the midterm election. But I know that the belief that I have, Chris, that a majority of our conference has, that she's lost focus on the single mission that we have in winning back the majority to push back against the radical Biden agenda is the reason that she needs to be replaced. But as a rank and file member, and make it clear to all of your viewers, Chris, that we're not kicking her out of the Republican Party if she's removed from her leadership post. But in her leadership post, she doesn't just, any member of Congress doesn't just represent their district, they represent 212 members of the Republican conference. And right now it's clear that she doesn't represent the views of the majority of our conference or the focus that all of us have to win back the majority.
All right, let me try to get at this a different way. Is Joe Biden the legitimate president of the United States?
Yes, Joe Biden was elected. He was inaugurated on January 20th, and he's our focus. As the chairman of the Republican Study Committee, we meet on a weekly basis to counter the radical Biden agenda and push back with policies, talking points. And at this point, the Republican Study Committee is filling the void and providing our members in the House Republican Conference with what they need to push back against the Biden agenda. And that's the focus. Every day that we're focused on something else, means that we're not focused on winning back the majority.
Reason I ask is I want to go back to your actions after the election in November. You joined more than 100 House Republicans supporting a Texas lawsuit to overturn the election results in other states. The Supreme Court refused to hear the case. Then you voted on January 6th to, quote, uphold the Constitution by challenging Biden victories in several states. Do you still question whether or not Joe Biden won the election fair and square and got over 270 electoral votes fair and square?
Yeah, Chris, I stand by my vote to object on January 6th. I stand by the Texas lawsuit because I have serious concerns about how the election in November was carried out. It's why I wrote a bill that's co-sponsored by nearly 100 of my colleagues to strengthen voter identification laws at the federal level and support those measures nationwide. And it's why I'm even more concerned about H.R. 1, the radical Democrat, their bill to nationalize and federalize elections, a very dangerous move forward, and that's what we should be focused on. And once again, when we're focused on beating Democrats, beating back the radical, dangerous Biden agenda, we should be focused on winning back the majority in the midterm election to save this country. And that's where most Republicans in the GOP conference are unified around that single mission and goal, and anything that distracts from it is going to hold us back from doing that.
But Congressman, you say anything that distracts from that. After the insurrection, after an unprecedented attack on the U.S. Capitol by Americans, you said that President Trump was not responsible for the attack on the Capitol. Here is what your leader, the House Republican leader, Kevin McCarthy, said on the day of the vote to impeach the president. Take a look.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters. He should have immediately denounced the mob when he saw what was unfolding.
Was Kevin McCarthy wrong that day?
Look, Chris, every single Republican in the Republican conference denounced what happened on January 6th, and almost all of us agree there should be some sort of a bipartisan commission to study what happened on that day to make sure that it never happens
again. Forgive me, sir.
again.
I'm just asking a question. Was President Trump... I mean, this gets to the central issue here, because what that Liz Cheney did, I understand the argument she's distracting from going after Joe Biden. I understand that, and you've made that point clearly. Liz Cheney is saying that it's a big lie to say the election was stolen. Liz Cheney is saying that, in fact, Donald Trump contributed to the riot. I'm asking you for your opinion on those issues. Is it a lie that the election was stolen? Did he contribute to the insurrection on the Capitol?
Yeah, Chris, I've never said that the election was stolen. I've said I have very serious concerns with how the election was conducted in last November because of COVID rules that loosened voter identification laws. That's why I objected on January 6th. I'll never apologize for that. I represented my district in doing so. But the focus on this program and on other news shows about Liz Cheney and January 6th and Donald Trump distract us from what we have to do to save this country to win back the majority in the midterm election. That's what I am focused on. Every single day that goes by that Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi pass more radical bills and send this country down a socialist path is a day that we lose in the mission to save the country. So that's why a change in Republican leadership at this level is necessary and is likely to happen this week.
So final question. I got less than a minute here, Congressman. When Liz Cheney says history is watching and you can't go forward until you resolve this question, the election was fair and square, Donald Trump played a negative role, you think she's misguided making those points?
Yeah, I've called on Liz Cheney to rejoin the Republican team and help us go out and win the majority in the midterm election. That's where my frustration has bubbled up. I wrote a memo, Chris, recently to Leader McCarthy about how we keep Trump voters in the Republican fold. You can find it at workingclassgop.com. And Liz Cheney is the only Republican leader who attacked the memo about making the Republican Party the party of the working class. If she doesn't get that's an important part of the formula to win the majority back in the midterm election and win the White House back in 2024, then she doesn't belong in a leadership position.
Congressman Bex, thank you. Thanks for talking with us. Please come back, and I promise the next time we're going to go in depth into that memo about making the GOP the working class party. Thank you, sir.